Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Thursday. This week we are looking at prayers that have been recorded in the Old Testament. Today I want us to see the great intercessory prayer given by Moses in Exodus chapter 32. The children of Israel have now escaped Egypt. They have exited that slave-conditioned state and they've crossed the Red Sea on dry land, leaving behind them Pharaoh's army in a flood. And now they have formed a golden calf to worship and calling it their God of deliverance. God says in his great wrath, he said, back up, I'm going to destroy them. I'm going to consume these people. And I'll make a great nation out of your descendants, Moses. So Moses prays for Israel despite their sin and their great rebellion against God. And he says there in Exodus chapter 32, Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you have brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians speak and say, he brought them up out of the land to harm them, to kill them in the mountains, and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce wrath and relent from this harm to your people. Remember Abraham and Isaac and Israel, your servants, to whom you swore by your own self and said to them, I will multiply your descendants as the stars of the heaven, and all this land that I have spoken of, I will give to them and their descendants. They shall inherit it forever. Have you ever needed to pray for someone, but you felt it sort of difficult to do so? You realized that they needed your prayer, but maybe you were angry or disappointed in them. You don't want to pray God's blessings on them right now. Well, it would have been so easy for Moses to have said, you know, you're right, God, let's start all over again. These are a stiff-necked people. They don't deserve you as their God. But then again, none of us really deserve him as our God, do we? And oftentimes we are all stiff-necked and rebellious. And so in Moses' prayer, he reminds God, first of all, how he has brought them out of Egypt with great power and his mighty hand. He said, all the world saw God's work in this instance, and we still talking about it, nations around, how you parted the Red Sea. So in Moses' prayer, he reminds God how he has done this. Secondly, he considers how the world would see this act of God on Israel. He said, they'll say, you know what? He only brought them out so that he could consume them or destroy them in the mountains. He's not a loving God. Have you ever thought about how our actions make God look in this world? Do we exhibit his faithfulness or even his great mercy on our lives? Is our testimony that we serve and trust in a living God no matter what we face? Sometimes we make God look bad. And he says, remember the promise you made to Abraham and Isaac and Israel to multiply their descendants, to give them this land of promise. So Moses says, you've invested a lot in these people. You need to show your power and your mercy through your chosen people, even today. And don't forget your promises. Are we willing to cry out to God in the interest of others? Maybe even someone we don't feel deserves it. But then again, we're not worthy of his mercy either. So when we cry out to God, we're always begging for mercy, either for us or for others. And that's what prayer is, especially intercessory prayer.